This is bad. This is diabolical. Actually, this is potentially one of the most damaging things I've seen in the nursing profession. University of North Carolina Health Medical Center recently announced that they are transitioning their staffing to a bid shift model beginning October 2nd. With bid shift, teammates request open shifts at a specific premium rate of pay. Other eligible staff may request the same shift at progressively lower rates of pay while the shift remains open for bidding. And then the shifts will be generally awarded to the lowest bid submitted. I'm asking every nurse out there to really take a minute to try to understand how damaging this is and what the long-term effects of this are going to be. They're pitting nurses against each other. They're treating full-time employees like contract workers. We all lose with this. This will drive all wages down. This is a competition to work for less money. This is brilliantly diabolical. Like, whoever came up with this, a genius, and going straight to hell. Diabolical. This is going to have such... I'm so angry. Please, please do not accept these shifts. Do not work those extra shifts. You are selling out every other nurse when you do that, because what I've always told you, what you put in place in one area carries over to other areas. You let this become the norm there, before we know it, it will be everywhere. Just think back to COVID. Did anything go back to the way it was before? You must stick together and not work any of those extra shifts. Do not bid on any of those extra shifts. And I'm going to take it a step further. This is almost as bad as crossing a strike line. You are going to have that kind of long-term detrimental effects if nurses start doing this. Do not accept these shifts. Do not sell out nurses everywhere. And just don't be stupid and work for less money.
Nurses are now bidding against each other for shifts, and the lowest pay wins. Let that sink in. There's a growing trend called Uber for nurses, where gig apps are using AI to staff hospitals. Sounds convenient until you see how it actually works. These platforms turn shifts into auctions. Nurses bid for the job, and whoever offers to work for the lowest rate gets it. So instead of hospitals competing to pay nurses fairly, nurses are competing to undercut each other. And it gets worse. These apps track everything. So performance, cancellations, even being late. That data decides if you get future shifts and how much you get paid. So now think about the clinical reality. You're being sent into unfamiliar facilities with little to no orientation, expected to provide safe care immediately. That is not just a workforce issue, that is a patient safety issue. And here's the part people are not paying attention to. These companies are actively lobbying to be exempt from healthcare staffing regulations, which means fewer protections for nurses, less accountability for these platforms, and more risk for patients. Healthcare is not rideshare. You cannot figure it out on the fly when lives are on the line. This is not innovation. This is a race to the bottom, dressed up as technology.
UNC Healthcare is quite literally trying to kill patients and trying to kill nursing. And you cannot convince me otherwise, because I just found out that they want to move to a bidding system for nurses. And I'm not talking about for travel nurses, although having them bid for contracts and compete for contracts also is very odd. I think it just should go to whoever's the most qualified and not who will do it for the cheapest amount of money. But also, UNC now wants their staff nurses, their full-time people that they have already hired and already said, hey, I think you're qualified for the job. They now want them to bid for shifts. So they're having to compete amongst themselves. So now, let's say a nurse normally works for like $40 an hour. Someone else could be like, well, hey, you know what? I'll do that same shift. I'll take that same shift, but I'll do it for $30 an hour. Or I'll do it for $20 an hour. And so they're quite literally driving the nursing wages down. So, you went to school, you did all this work, you did your clinicals, you endured like terrible things to get to be able to be a nurse. And now the competition and suffering doesn't even end. Once you get the job, now you have to compete against your fellow nurses for actual shifts now. And I know that there's cattiness amongst nurses and there can be, those kind of problems. But now add in literally having to compete for shifts, compete for your livelihood, compete so that you can pay your rent and put food on the table and take care of your family. I don't think that's going to support camaraderie, and I don't think that's going to support cooperative care amongst nurses. If they all hate each other and they're all breathing down each other's necks because they literally need to be able to take care of themselves and feed their family, and their fellow nurses now their competition, how do you think that's going to affect patient care? Do you think that's going to have a positive effect on patient care? I think not. As a patient, I don't want my healthcare workers to have to do stuff like this. They should have ample downtime, livable, and dare I say, thrivable wages. They should have a healthy and safe work environment. What part of this reads healthy and safe work environment, UNC? You're going to have desperate nurses. You're going to have overworked nurses. You're going to have nurses who are distracted because they're worrying about other things and maybe they're trying to bid for the next shift while they're, I don't know, maybe trying to keep a patient alive. How do you think that's going to play out? And I found out that they cannot bid the wages up. UNC has it capped. I don't know what the cap is, but I'm assuming it's not that fucking great. They can only bid downwards. So for some reason, UNC thinks it's a fantastic idea to stress out, even more so, the people who are supposed to be keeping patients alive. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like I need to find some kind of patient experience number for UNC and maybe post it on here, and then everybody can call and tell them what a terrible fucking idea this is.
You might want to sit down because this one is probably going to piss you off. This is UNC Health, an organization with over 50,000 employees, and many of them are nurses. Why am I telling you this? Because UNC is changing the way these nurses' shifts are scheduled, and they're changing it in a way that will allow UNC to pay them as little as possible while pitting them against one another. Because UNC is moving to what they call a bid shift program. It sounds like a fun little game, right? Not so much. This is how it works. For critical staffing shifts, also known as premium shifts, which are shifts that are so important to the organization that they traditionally pay a higher hourly wage, the hospital now allows nurses to compete with each other by offering a progressively lower rate until the hospital awards the shift potentially to the lowest bidder. It's a reverse auction, people, but one where life-saving professionals are asked to bid against each other's wages in a race to the bottom for a system that obviously rewards low-wage acceptance instead of professional skills. A system where the employer, the hospital, like an overweight emperor, steps aside and watches gladiators dressed like nurses fight each other for a paycheck. Are you a single mother who could use the shift but needs to pay for childcare while you cover this critical shift? Sorry, there's a nurse who lives with his parents who's probably gonna outbid you. I'm sure that the conversation between you two at the upcoming company picnic's not gonna be awkward at all. So there you have it. The men and women America praised as heroes just a few years ago who dedicate their life to literally saving us and the people we love. Those people are being asked by their employer, whose services are so expensive that they cause 530,000 people to file for bankruptcy each year, to decide who's gonna be paid the least to fill a shift that they call critical. Is this the flavor of capitalism we're supposed to embrace and encourage? I'm just asking for a non-billionaire friend of mine.
If your hospital is anything like mine, everybody was freaking out about Nurse Erica's newest video she dropped yesterday.
They are transitioning their staffing to a bid shift model. They're pitting nurses against each other. We all lose with this.
What an absolute insane scheme to have nurses compete with each other to try to schedule shifts at their hospital. My name's Hannah. I'm a nurse in Asheville, North Carolina at HCA's Mission Hospital. As an HCA nurse, I am no stranger to HCA schemes to do anything for cost-cutting measures. Thank God we organized a union in 2020, and we've been able to successfully organize and push back against management schemes that are bad for nurses and bad for patients. Technology like this, where we have nurses bidding to work a shift, devalues our labor, and it keeps nurses competing with each other instead of uniting together to hold management accountable to keep our workplaces safe by staffing them well and therefore protecting our patients. The first thing I thought when talking with my coworkers yesterday is thank God we have a union. NNU nurses take on the boss in corporate healthcare all the time. So if you work at a hospital like this that wants to put in bad schemes, join us. Click on the link below. Those of us here in Asheville and across the country have your back. Let's organize and fight to win.
Do I have 25? Do I have 26, 20, 30? Do I have 24? Oh, you're working for 23? So, oh, y'all ain't heard what UNC nursing is doing? UNC Health Systems? Shit. They done started a bidding war over there. Oh yeah, they done went to bid shift, where you bid on open shifts. They taking the lowest bid for the job. Everything has a poster child. You feel me? This is the poster child of what's coming. UNC Health System, is this works through them? You know the rest of the country's watching. And this is what's gonna be at hand. Well, employees are gonna be treated like contractors. They're gonna pit us against each other like that. And you know what's gonna happen? Say that job paid $40 an hour. That job's no longer gonna pay 40 because they bidding, and the lowest bid gets the job. The thing to do would be not bid at all, but who's gonna do that? You feel me? If you don't get no bids at all, then hey, you got to stick to something. But people are going to start bidding because people's needs are different. And that's what it's going to come up to. How you living, what you need. Because where it was 40 and the more want to pick 30, somebody going to say, I'll work that for 25. Somebody going to say, I'll work that shift for 23. You see, from 40 to 23, we done cut $17 off that damn shift. On some real shit. I'm just saying, boy, this is the test tube, baby. And believe me, employees going to be pitted against each other like never before.
This is why I do what I do and why I'm going to keep doing it. Less than a week ago, I exposed University of North Carolina Health instituting its new bid shift plan, forcing nurses to outbid each other at lower wages. And I asked everyone to understand how damaging this was and to take a stand and get involved. And that video went viral, and the one after that. And everybody started sharing it and making their own videos about it. Well, guess what? Min Lee, the president, sent out this email today that states in part, the language in the original email stated that the critical staffing shifts would generally be awarded based on the lowest bid submitted. This was a mistake. And I'm truly sorry for the confusion and angst this has caused. Let me be clear. While the bidding function is a feature on the platform, it will not be used at UNC hospitals. I am committed to a process that supports teamwork, non-competition. The idea of nurses competing against each other does not reflect who we are as an organization, blah, 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 blah. I just have one question. Did you decide to send this email before or after employees were told not to talk about this publicly, allegedly? This is why I do what I do, because social media is powerful and sometimes it works. I've had a lot of success stories, and I don't care. You can keep sending me all the threatening legal action emails that you want. I'm going to keep calling out all the bullshit like I've been doing for years because someone has to do it. I'm going to keep talking about your strike insurance that you don't want me to tell them about you blaming nurses for healthcare violence, about you not paying your nurses, or about your surgical centers with no air conditioning that, by the way, still isn't fixed. Thank you for doing the right thing. Finally, UNC Health. It's too bad that it took a viral video and all this negative attention to get you to do it.
A lot of nurses are going crazy over this news. Can you imagine nurses bidding just to get hired? This never works out. Uber has been doing it to drivers. They paid them a lot. They paid them fair wages initially, but in the end, it's just a race to the bottom. Imagine not even having guaranteed minimum wage. That's what the hospitals want to bring over. These billionaires are never, ever, ever tired. They are going to squeeze blood out of a stone just to get some money. That's exactly what this is. A race to the bottom. Because who wants to work and get no sick leave? Who wants to work and get no insurance? Who wants to work for nothing? That's exactly what they want. Because companies that use these apps also get to take advantage of the nurses' desperation. That's what they want. Some people are more desperate than the others, and they know this. They want to rely on that. And it's so unfortunate. This is definitely not innovation. It's anything but innovation. It's just stealing poor people's, their money, poor people's hard work, poor people's time. That's all they're stealing. Employees being pinned against one another only works to the detriment of the hospitals. Because if the nurses can't make it work, they are just going to quit. And if they quit, where are you going to get someone to help you once you go to the hospital? You have no one there to help you. Hospitals in the US are going out of business for a lot of reasons. You have these venture capitalists buying out the hospitals, taking a lot of debt, bankrupting them. It's crazy. And now they want to add bid shifts to the equation. It's just a race to the bottom. That's all it is, a race to the bottom. This makes you appreciate countries like Denmark, Sweden, with a lot of worker rights employees. Workers' rights. That's what the US needs. But of course, they have all these billionaires fighting against it. And then you have a lot of nurses that can't afford to leave unless they put out a bid. And that becomes a problem for everyone else, unfortunately. And this bid shift nonsense that the hospital is trying to push, it's just the first step. When this hospital succeeds, the other hospitals are going to look around and they're like, wait a minute, we can do this too. We went from paying someone $50 an hour, we put in a bidding system, and now we are paying another nurse that could take that position for $20 an hour. Guess what? They are making more money, and that's exactly what we need to do. This is a blueprint for all the other hospitals to follow suit, and you definitely do not want this. When people start accepting it, it's only going to get worse. I think people should come together, push through. Either their unions or they should just refuse to sign up. But that's a problem. Not everyone can afford to live out here. Some people have to take this job just to make it. But others don't need it. And if you even have a hint that your hospital is trying to do this, well, it's time to look for another job. Look for another hospital. This nurse on TikTok, Nurse Erica, did so well. She made a video. The video went viral with a lot of people reposting it. And UNC Health saw it and they're like, this is not looking good for us. We need to save face. And they sent a private email telling their people, hey, guess what, guys? We were just joking. We don't want to make this happen. Unfortunately for them, the video has already been made, right? And now all they are doing is just some damage control. Another thing they did was trying to send her some cease and desist letters, trying to threaten her with legal action. All this is BS. People can speak about these situations, and she specialized in just talking about the crap that the nurses are facing in the healthcare industry. And it's so unfortunate that someone even has to do it, but it is true. Every industry, someone has to stand up and fight for the rights, basic rights that everyone is supposed to get. But they expect you to fight for that. Can you imagine? If she has not made a video about it, if people on social media have not spoken about it, it was only going to get worse. So this is why it is very important for people to come together, make videos about certain topics, expose these people, because that seems to be the only thing that gets to work.